Ready, 1, 2, 3. We are not live. We are not live, but we are alive. And today, love is in the air because we are going to be printing and making some wonderful Valentine's Day cards. Yes, we are. So hello, lovely Gary. So nice to have you back in the Tea Time tutorial studio. And hello, lovely YouTuber. It is great to have your company. If you could please, before you go, or right now even, just do it now and you get it out of the way. Thumbs up, that would be amazing. It helps us get into the algorithms. If you like the content, give us a little thumb up. Also, if you subscribe to the channel, that would be wonderful. We are going up in subscriptions, we are. And of course, if you hit the bell, you'll be notified when we upload the content, which we are uploading twice a month, Tea Time Tutorials, and twice a month, Breaking the Blocks, the new podcast. I love it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it, Gary. So that's the business done. If you want to crack on and start printing, you can ignore me and Gary having a little chat now about life, because we do always at the beginning of Tea Time Tutorials, you never know, learn something. But if you do want to, just go ahead to that exercise, look at the time code below, and we will see you there. However, lovely Gary, it's so nice to have you back.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we must say, I mean, you know, we were very concerned because poor old Gary has had the COVID. And you had it at the same time last year.
I know. I'm honestly thinking I'm just going to book off January and just say, just forget trying to plan anything or do anything in January, because it was exactly the same time last year. And I think, I don't know, I do mingle. We do a bit of mingling at Christmas time, and you know, and meet people, see family, see friends, and do all that. And I suppose I just go down with it, you know, I just catch it straight away. And yeah, dreadful.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you survived, Gary. I'm glad that you've come back. Yes.
But I've come back 110%. And I think the secret is to anyone out there, no matter what you go, you know, viruses and colds and things are all going around. There's so much going around at the moment. Allow yourself to rest. Don't force yourself back to work too early. So that's why you haven't seen me for a few weeks, is because I was just completely having a rest. You know, obviously I was bedbound for about 5 days. And then I was just on and off the bed for another 5, because, you know, when you go down, and then you've got to let your body just get back to itself. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to do that and just put work and everything to one side and say, no, I'm going to get better. And I definitely come back 110%. And that's what happened last year as well. I gave myself time to get better. And again, I came back.
But, you know, don't put too much pressure on yourself. And I think it's like we were chatting today and you said, did you get to the gym this morning? No, I didn't. I woke up late. But I'm not going to beat myself up over the head about it, because I'll go to the gym tomorrow. And it's like you say, I think whatever you do, you must not beat yourself up. I was thinking about how we talk to friends, and that's how we should talk to ourselves. So if my friend rang me and said, you know, I started the gym on Monday. Yes. And I promised myself I was going to go today, Wednesday. Well, I went to bed late last night because I was watching a really good program that I enjoyed. And then that meant I didn't get up this morning and I didn't go to the gym. I would go, well, go tomorrow. I wouldn't say, well, that's just lazy, isn't it? That's just laziness. And you've ruined it now. You've ruined your workouts. You're not going to get your results. But that's what we do to ourselves. We go, oh. And that's me, by the way. That was me. I went to bed late last night because I was watching the Julia Childs program. But, you know, that's what you do. You berate yourself. Be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself like you would a friend. And just, you know, that time.
These New Year's resolutions, I mean, sometimes we set ourselves up to fail, don't we? You know, we say, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this, and change all this. Well, I think the best thing is actually just really like maybe set yourself a couple of goals.
Yeah.
And yes, you're going to fall off the wagon 9 times out of 10. All of us, we're human beings, we fall off the wagon. But like you just said, is just say, that's fine, I fell off the wagon, but I'm not going to stay off the wagon. I'm going to get back on and continue off. And there might be a couple of little hiccups along the way, but keep focused. I think that's it.
Yes, keep that roadmap of where you go, but don't worry if you stop along the way and have a picnic or two. It doesn't matter. In the end, you'll do whatever's right for you at that right time. If you do something that's not good for you, at least you'll be aware of it and you'll come back and you'll start again. As you say, you might fall off the wagon, but it's getting back on the wagon that is the point. Don't berate yourself. So yeah, let's go into 24 being positive, but not being too harsh on ourselves. Yes. Right. Well, we are going to do a lovely exercise today. By the way, can I just say, I think this cup is made for left-handed people. Do you know why? This is my right hand, right?
Right.
But there's the, I bought it in LA. So look, but that's, you see, now, you know, because if you're drinking, you want the sort of front to show off, don't you?
It's not designed, that cup has not been designed for a YouTube filming. Because, and also it's not back, no, it's not back to front, but you wouldn't necessarily, what you want when you're drinking, you're not expecting other people to be viewing this side of the cup. You want to see it, so it is right. Is it
Oh, is
in?
it me? So I should be looking at LA.
You should look at LA and your aspirations to get to LA, you know, to whatever
Yeah,
you
I
want to
went
do
to
in
LA. All
LA.
I got was I wanted a Hollywood career. All I got was a mug. But hey ho, here I am.
I think you're best off just having a completely plain white mug, actually.
Yeah, yeah. To not remind myself, oh, LA, LA. Anyway, we are going to change things up a little this year, just before we go into our exercise, just to let you know, because Gary, bless him, was having to come up with 4 exercises a month, which was an awful lot. And I will say as well, Gary does have a life outside of tea time tutorials. So what we're going to do now is, and this is actually a really interesting way of looking at it, Gary is going to bring his exercise to us once a month. We may get a guest for the other tea time tutorial. There will only be 2 tea time tutorials a month, but that's because twice a month I put my Breaking the Blocks podcast out, which if you haven't heard it, please go and have a listen. I'm talking to lots of amazing creative people. Gary's still to be interviewed. I will get him. And it's all about how they have overcome blocks in their life, and it's a really great podcast, but you can actually watch it if you're a visual person. So that's on the channel. So that goes out every other week on a Saturday. So sandwiched in between, we thought we'd do the tea time tutorials. So Gary will bring his idea, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for something that I want to learn, because that might be something you would do as a YouTuber. And then I'm going to say to Gary, right, I want to create this picture, but it looks a little bit tricky. How would you go about doing this as a kind of beginner's guide? And then Gary will say, well, look, why don't we approach it this way? And so then we'll do the exercise that way, which is an interesting way of looking at it. So I'm looking forward to that. But this exercise is one, well, I think we both kind of came across this one, didn't we, Gary? I think
Yeah.
you had an idea, and then I sent it to you, something to you, and then we've kind of put
exactly. So we look around, see what's happening on social media and what other people are doing and everything like that. There was a couple of these things that you'd sent me, or I'd seen as well, of this sort of like this theme, this Valentine's theme, of how people were doing some printing. So I've sort of amalgamated the two and just sort of explored it so that we can have a little try. Now, what I'll show you, you don't have to come out with exactly the same. You can just explore the process and either make yourself a picture, or you might want to make a card, or whatever you want to do with it. But it's just a fun way of actually just using bits and pieces around, bits of art stuff, bits of stuff that perhaps is in the recycling bin, and just use that to actually create some art with.
Yes, perfect. So let us switch to the hand view. I shall bring in your camera, Gary.
Right.
There we go.
Lovely. Look at that. Okay, so you can almost see. Let me bring these down. So I've sort of created these, which are very similar. One's got much more of a sort of a white background, and the other one has got, I've done a sort of a pinky background and then superimposed these heart, these theme over the top with a little section in through here which just says Valentine, but you could write anything through there, whatever you wanted to do. I've just used some, what I would say, sort of good quality cartridge paper rather than photocopy paper, because I think because we're using wet media, and that's wet paint and water and things like that, and we're printing on it, the thinner paper would probably buckle up. But and I always say this to everybody, just use what you've got home. It's about the experience, about the exploration, about the experimentation. If you've only got thin copy paper or something from a journal, a book, or something like that, just use that. It's about the experimentation and exploring the method itself. So right, let's put those, I'm going to put them up there out of the way. What do you need? You need a bit of paper, as I said. Actually, you need 2 bits of paper. They could be roughly the same size. This secondary piece of paper doesn't necessarily have to be as good quality as the one you're going to be painting on, because you're going to make a stencil from that piece of paper. You could go down the recycling bin and you could find, if you've got any, you might have saved it yourself, because quite often I save this bubble wrap stuff But if I'm going to wrap up anything else and just send it in the post, or keep something from breaking if I put it in a box or something like that. So it's a bit of bubble wrap. This one actually is quite nice. It's quite small dots on a surface. You can get bigger ones. Do you know, if you haven't got any bubble wrap, you will be able to use for printing. It could be scrunched up paper, scrunched up plastic, cling film, anything like that. But it's just to create a surface, just to print with. So a little bit of bubble wrap. The other thing you need is just a tube, just a cardboard tube. That one's from probably a kitchen roll, but you might have a toilet roll one as well. So you've got something like that. We're going to make that. We're going to use that for printing. Paint wise, you could use acrylic paint. So I'm going to use acrylic paints. I've got a couple of tones of red here, but again, just use what you've got. So if you haven't got any acrylic paints, you might just have some watercolor paints, but you could probably do this quite well with watercolor. You're just going to have to make sure you get plenty of color on there. You could use some red ink. You could use some red food coloring as well. Got a couple of jars, as always, here of some water. I've got some paint brushes, little paint brushes, and I have got one of these sponge brushes, but you don't necessarily need that. That's because I'm going to mix up a little bit of paint. What have I got over this side? Let's move my mug out of the way. I've got actually some masking tape. That's a blue one, and that's one more typical one that you've got. This blue one I found recently. It's supposed to be even better for peeling away, and also it gives a nice sort of tacky surface that the paint doesn't bleed in down between where you've put it down. So I will try this blue one. I have had quite a lot of success with it, and again, same principle, keep it warm. So heat it up with your hairdryer and it peels away quite nicely. I've got a handful of sort of themed paint, excuse me, some brushes and some Posca pens. But if you've got felt tips in red, in pink, a white Posca pen, I've got a white pencil, I've got an ordinary pencil there as well. I've got that. I've got my little spray bottle of water, but you don't necessarily need that. You could just coat a little bit of water on there. I think that's all we need in front of us. So we'll get started. So I'll tell you what we're going to do first of all. We are going to just mask our little piece of paper that we're going to actually do the work on. So this is the better quality piece of paper. And I'm just going to really just stick it down to my work surface. I'm just going to hold it down, and this will also, not only will it stick the piece of paper down, stop it moving around, it also gives that nice crisp border all the way around the outside. So that's quite nice. But, you know, if you haven't got any masking tape, do not worry. You could use a piece of washi tape. You could just pin it down to something to stop it moving around. But I like a piece of that. And again, this, as I said, this blue one, which is supposed to be, I've still found it in the hardware store, but it's supposed to be easier to peel away. And it is quite, it's nice and tacky. And again, I'm just putting it down and I'm just rubbing my finger around the edge. So I've got a good, nice contact. I'm just going to put that bit there. Okay, so I've got a good, nice contact. That isn't going anywhere. Now, on the card, we've got a section which is you can write in. You don't have to do this, but it's quite nice to have that. So again, another piece of the tape. And this time, I'm not putting it dead center. In fact, this is a bit of an artist trick. Rather than dead center, just move it down towards yourself a little bit more. So it's just off center like that. So it's not going through horizontally through the center. It's just coming down a little bit. So it's just going to be there. Okay. I've prepped up my paper. Now we're going to just get our paint. I've just got here on my little palette. You could use a paint palette. You could use an old plate. What I've used is actually just this little square little tray. I've put a little bit of kitchen paper underneath, which I've just added a little bit of water to, and then some, this is just baking parchment. And what that does, and I've shown this before, it stops the paint drying out too quickly. So in fact, what I was working on yesterday is still quite wet. It hasn't dried out, which is quite nice. But I'm just going to add a little bit of, just a little dab of this acrylic. As I say, you might have watercolor paint, you might have some ink, or even some food colorings, which is fine. Now, acrylics come out almost like double cream. What you want to do is you want to just make it a little bit more runny. So I've just added a little bit of water to it. You can do this with a brush or a little sponge applicator. So it's a little bit more, it's got a little bit more water consistency to it. And that'll just help with the printing. So I'm going to leave that little applicator there. I'm going to then do this to this color as well. No, you might not have two colors. You might just have one, which is fine. It's only me just adding a little bit extra, another sort of like dimension to it, and just playing around with some color. But there we are. So I'm going to just pop that to one side for a minute over here. What I'm going to, rather than just have a white background, I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to just color my background in slightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray. But if you haven't got one of these little sort of travel spray bottles filled with water, what you could do is you could just use with a bigger brush like this, dipped in some water and just put some water on. And I think if you look at some of the tutorials, I use this method quite a bit. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to just brush across very lightly and very watery a little bit of pink or a little bit of red, which I've really watered down. So I'm just going to just brush that on. I don't want it to be too strong because I don't want it to overpower the printing that I'm going to do in a minute. So it's just a very light wash. So again, you've got to just be quite tentative with that. Now I'm gonna leave down and just get, because I'm speeding up the process, I'm just gonna get my hairdryer and just speed that up. But at this moment, what you could do is if you could just, you go make yourself a cup of tea at this point and just say, right, I'm gonna just leave that to dry for a minute and go make yourself a cup of tea, come back. So I'm just gonna do the hairdryer. So now that looks, it's almost like what I would say touch dry. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to, you know, I like a bit of flicking. I like my flicking. I'm just going to flick with my paintbrush. I'm just going to take my paintbrush and I'm just going to dab it into the paint. So I'm going to load up the edge with it. And I'm just literally, it's what I'm going to do, hold it over and then I'm going to just tap it. In fact, you could tap it with your finger, but sometimes you get a best result if you just tap it with a pencil or another pen. So just... hang on, let's get a bit more. It needs to be loaded with quite a bit of paint on there, so it does do that. There we go. I'm just adding a few little flicks of paint on there. It's just a nice little sort of like background surface. So once you've flicked a little bit of paint on there, you can always, if you've managed to flick paint on like me over around the surface outside of the picture that you're creating, you can just quickly wipe that up. Again, go back with your hairdryer and now just give that a dry. So just give that a dry. Make sure keeping that stuck down. Let's show you how to make. First of all, we're going to make a cup. We're going to make this heart stamper. So if I face it up here, so this comes from a tube. So, and again, if you've got a long tube like this, you could always cut it in half. So how do you make your little heart shape? Now, this is the thing that we saw on doing on the internet, which was really quite nice. So what you do is, first of all, you pinch one side. So you just give that a little pinch there. So that's that little end of the heart there. So you pinch that and then find the middle up here. So where, look, thinking about if it was directional, completely like in half up there, you want that to just fold down. So again, you can just push your finger along till these starts to get in half, like so. So again, you can manipulate it around, have a look how you've got your heart. So you really are just pinching the bottom, and then so that's pinched outwards, and then the top is just pinched in that way. So if I squeezed it really tight, and you see how I've created that heart shape, and already that has gone into a nice little heart shape. Now what I found was, so this is the one I was using when I was doing the sample. What was quite nice, as it got a little bit wet around the outside, it really worked well as a sort of as a stamper. I had to make marks onto the paper, which was nice. So we're going to use that first of all. How have you got on with that, Rachel? Have you managed to manipulate your toilet roll or your little roll into a heart shape? So if you've got, like, say yours has gone a bit like that, pinched at one side, what you do is you put your thumb in there and you round it off with your thumb, so to get it as equal as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's looking good. Yeah, that's better.
No, that looks fine. Again, you know, this, if you looked at my hearts that I did here, they're not completely like here and here. They're not completely equal. And don't worry, because we're going to go over them in pencil. We're going to slightly bleed them with a little bit of paint as well, or water on them. So that's fine. So first thing, I think we'll use our print first of all. So we're going to do a couple of these, just a couple in the corners just to get us started. So I'm going to make sure I've got my nice wet paint here. So I've got it nice and wet. You can do two ways. What you can do is you could use your paintbrush and you could apply it that way, Or what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down and I'm just going to stamp in my little reservoir of wet paint, like so. So I've covered that in wet paint like that. And I'm just going to add a couple just to start with, just up here in the corner. I'm just going to do one there, like that, stamp it. And I think I'll do one sort of down there and just stamp that like that to start with. Now, while it's still quite wet, what I'm going to do is I'm just getting a very small paintbrush with some clean water, and I'm just going to bring some water into the center of the heart. So it just brings it, can you see how that just starts to bleed in? I'm not painting outside, I'm bringing the paint inside. So I'm just bringing some water in, and I can do that one down here as well. So I'm just bringing it in, just the water. I've got my little heart shape down like that. We can give that a dry. How's that gone, Ray? Yeah. Have you got a heart? Have you done a heart shape?
Yes, I have.
Yes, I can see that. Lovely.
Yeah, I'm still not getting that middle bit though, but it's fine because I'm just bringing it in. It's fine.
Just bring it in, and we will be drawing around these heart shapes with markers and pencils, so we can almost like sharpen up the detail as we go.
Yeah.
Okay. The next thing we're going to do is this time we're going to create a stencil or a mask stencil. So we created a printing block. So this is our printer. Now we're going to stencil out. So the main feature is a heart in the middle. So what I want you to do is you've got a piece of paper the same size, and this is going to become your stencil. You're going to fold it in half like so, and we're going to cut a heart shape out of it. But we want the heart to be able to be seen completely within this square that you've masked off. So what you need to do is just think about where the top, or where the heart sort of like where it comes around here at the top here, that is going to be within the distance, and that where the bottom of the heart is going to be within the distance down here. And then you could pencil line a half a heart shape like that. I'm then going to take a pair of paper scissors and I'm going to cut my heart shape out. So I'm going to just roughly cut it out. I say roughly, I'm keeping the line smooth. You don't want really a jagged line. You're going to want keep it nice. And there, you can always check your heart shape there and put that to one side, because you could always use that as a template again if you quite like it. Now, what you need to do, you need to open up your heart shape, and you can test now if that is going to fit nicely in to the picture. What's that going to look like? So that looks all right to me. I quite like that. And again, what we want is the heart to slightly either go over this heart over here or down here, slightly overlap it or touch it, or be part of it. So this is giving you, when you're creating your imagery and your theme of hearts, that they start to look layered on top of each other. So they're all coming together like that. Now, rather than just leave it loose like that, because it could slip and slide, I'm going to just use a couple of pieces of masking tape just to hold it nice and flat or still, because you don't want it shifting around. So I've just done that. So it's in position where I want it. I'm going to take my bubble wrap now, and I want to what I've got to do is I've got to cover the bubble wrap in some paint, because I'm going to print with the bubble wrap, and you've got to cover enough so that you've covered an area of the same size as that heart. Now, and again, you don't want it absolutely, I'm just going to put it on this piece of cloth so you can see. What you don't want is that absolutely sopping with paint. What you want to do is just run the paint over the bubbles like so. So you've got a nice, and that should just be enough. So it's not literally dripping with paint, it's just really painted those bubbles. And then what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over, and you're going to position that over your stencil, where your stencil is. And then you can use a piece of kitchen paper or another piece of paper. You're just going to smooth it down with your hand. Just press it down with your hand like that. And then you can take that piece away, and then you carefully peel that away like so. Now, I don't want you to move anything at this point, but I'm going to put that piece of bubble wrap out the way. Again, get your hair dry, and now just give that a nice little dry. So we're just going to give that a dry. So right, let's carry on. Okay, so we've got 2 hearts at the moment. Let's double these hearts. So we'll have some hearts in this corner, more hearts up there, and so we can use either the same color again, so we can print with the same color, so we can add another one here, maybe one down there, but also we could add a different color, so we can just slightly wipe. What I would do is wipe off the paint with there, and then I'm just going to now do another tone, more of a sort of a purpley pink color, and I'm going to just double that over. So we've got hearts on hearts. I think I might have another one down there. I think I just keep it like that. That's fine. And like we did before, you're just going to go with some clean water and your paintbrush, and you're just going to just drag some of that paint in carefully. I'm just going to bring that paint in. It starts to paint the little hearts in. If you find, like there, I've got a little pool of too much paint, I'm not happy, don't want too much there, just get the corner of the kitchen roll, make it like a little bit like that, and then you can just tap it in. If it starts, the paint starts to pool, and you think, oh, that's going to go outside the heart, you can just use that to do it. Okay, we're getting there. I'm going to just finally give this one more dry. So I'm just going to just dry this one more time, and then we can then start doing a bit of doodling and playing around with what we've already printed. Now's the time. So once you've done that and you've dried it off, is that you're going to take off their masking tape. So now's the time to take that off. I'm just going to move that water out the way. Now, the process is really, if the masking tape is warm, so warm it comes off much easier. This blue one is better than I found than the white one, but again, it's the same principle. You warm the masking tape up, and then you peel it away while it's warm. If it's gone cold, what happens is the glue is then stuck to the paper, and you might tear the paper. But just over sort of like your experience and just learning, you'll learn which is the best temperature to pull the masking tape off. So I'm going to just, after talking, I'm going to just warm it up again with my hairdryer, and then take it off. Okay, right. So now you'll find you've got your lovely white borders, but also you've got this lovely strip across the middle where you've got space to then write into. But you might find that some of your little hearts are sort of like mine. You know, I haven't got the full heart. It's not all quite there, because now we've taken the paper away, or the masking tape away. We've got some spaces. So I would suggest pencils first of all. What you're going to do is just draw the rest of that heart. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be completely just very quickly done. So you almost like you were just sketching out these little heart shapes. And I'm just using a red pencil to start with, just to draw around. Then I can use a white pencil as well. So you're sort of layering up marks. Like so. You might want to draw around your main heart here, like so. So you can do that. I'm going to use some Posca pens. So I've got my Posca pens. Posca pens are like acrylic paint in like a pen form, which is really they're quite nice. But you know, if you haven't got Posca pens, you could use a felt tip, you could use a biro, whatever you wanted to do. But I'm just going to write, so you could write a message through the center here. Again, what you could do, I'm going to say, before you go ahead and start writing on a piece of paper, is always test how you'd like your handwriting to be. So no one expects you to write Valentine straight away. If you don't want to handwrite it, you could get some of those stampers and just stamp Valentine through it if you wanted to. You can even cut out like a sort of a ransom note with little sort of like letters from a magazine or from a newspaper, and just put it through that. That might look quite fun, especially if they were sort of like either all in the same color, like a black on cream white background, or you found some red letters. That could look quite nice. So I'm just going to write Valentine kiss, maybe a little heart here. And then with my pen, then I can then go in and start doing a little bit more mark making if I feel a little bit more confident. I could do a little bit of doodling as well. So I'm just going to. I'm doing just defining it again. The white one, look, is quite nice to work just, you know, you've got those little circles. You could just go around a few circles.
And for anybody who hasn't used a Posca, make sure that you do shake it and bounce it up and down quite a lot before you start. Because at first I was like, it's not working.
I know. So what happens is, well, any of these sort of like liquid acrylic pens is there's a little ball bearing in there. So you really have to really give it a good shake before you get started. And the other thing you then have to do, so the nib inside actually sort of intracts inside and down. So you need to push it up and down, and that gets the paint flowing down the nib. And in fact, yesterday, if I can find, I don't know where I put it. I had yesterday. Yes, it was this one. This is an old one. When I first bought a pen like this was my older one. And in fact, the nib had got very sort of like gunged up and not very nice. But actually, you can pull. Can you see that? You can pull the nib out and just turn it over and put it back in.
I just literally did that. I just literally did that to mine because it was a little bit dry, and I thought, can I pull this nib out? Yes, I can, and I've done it.
And the nib comes out, just turn it down. And again, so if you get, maybe you get it mucky, so maybe you've you know, done your mark making with the nib on, and you've hit some paint that's a little bit still wet, and it's made all the nib go red, for instance, on this. You don't want to then start transferring it everywhere. So you can take the nib out, you can clean it with a little bit of kitchen paper, and then put it back in, and it's nice, and it all starts again. So yeah, just a little hint and tip using these pens. But I like the outcome. I like using both the Posca pens. I like using my just ordinary pencils. In fact, this little red pencil is what they call a watercolor pencil. And so I can, again, if I wanted to, let me find my brush, get some clean water. And again, because I've used the watercolor pencil, what I can do is then just blend again and just smudge the pencil. So if I just run the little wet paintbrush around the edge of my pencil lines, it just blends and smudges that pencil line, which is quite nice. Great fun. So yes, there we are. Lots of different techniques there. So we've done printing with making a print shape. Now, what also you might have, if you look in your kitchen drawer, is a pastry cutter, which is heart-shaped. And so you could do exactly the same with a pastry cutter if you've got one in your drawer. In fact, I had a look yesterday. I thought I had a little one, and I didn't. I don't know where I put it. So that's obviously gone missing. But I think the toilet roll or kitchen roll works just as well if you can just get that little heart shape. It takes a little bit of manipulation and getting it quite a nice shape. And then I think the thing which is really quite easy to do is just making your stencil. And then once you've got your stencil, like so, then you can start printing. And again, the stencil doesn't have to be this size. You could make a smaller stencil. You could make half the size, smaller ones, and stencil those as well. So you could do that. Right, let's see how we done. Rachel, yours is looking really quite good. Should we have a shared screen?
Yes, do you know what? I'm very happy with it. Right, add a spotlight.
Oh wow, yeah, yes, that's really nice. I'm going to just bring mine a bit closer to the screen. Lovely. My heart belongs to you. Oh, how sweet. That's so nice.
That's for you, Gary. Lovely. That's for you, Gary.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, I like it.
There you go.
Yeah, I do think my heart is perhaps a little big, but you know, that's always been my problem, Gary. Always
big-hearted. Exactly. Big-hearted. That's
lovely.
Fantastic.
Yes. So here we are. Can I just say as well, on my Christmas list, I did have quite a few artistic things, and I did get some watercolor pencils, and they are very good. Yes, I had to play with those. So I've just actually filled in my, I went over my lettering just a little bit with one of those pencils, but also as well. And now I'm going to give you something now. It's going to be pencil sharpener envy, although I bet you've already got one.
Oh no. No. Oh.
Can I just say, I've got to get a pencil. Oh my goodness me. The joy. Pop it in there. You know, Linda, one of our lovely monkeys, she was saying to me, I'm loving seeing your little art supplies that you're buying. It gives me great joy. But yes, so basically, and you do that, and then you pop
That's
it
mine.
and you get a very sharp pencil. Oh my Lord. I tell you, amazing. I have to
But
say,
you know, do you know, that reminds me, when I went to, well, I was at, you know, primary school and juniors, weren't allowed biros, and we certainly didn't have keyboards to write on those days. It was, you literally started off with a pencil. That's how you learned to write, with a pencil, before you moved on to biros. The teacher always, at the clamped to her desk, you went up there to then sharpen the pencil.
yeah.
It was a great distraction. Like, oh, I'm a bit bored. Oh, I'll go up and sharpen my pencil.
Yeah.
So yes, that's it. Brought it all back to me. Just seeing that. That's fantastic.
Not that Celine Dion song. It's all coming back to me now. Oh, brilliant. Well, I have to say, Gary, what a wonderful, wonderful tea time tutorial that was.
Yeah.
Anything that, you know, gets you printing and doodling and drawing is fantastic. So yes, I'm really very happy with mine. It's definitely
I'm happy.
my wall of fame, although I might write a message on it and give it to the person whose heart I belong to. I'm not sure if I said that right. So if it comes into your mailbox, Gary, you better be worried. You'll be like, oh my gosh.
Oh, look out.
I think you'd rather have some wine. Anyway, thank you so much to Gary, as always.
Thank you.
And thank you to you, lovely YouTuber, for watching. As we always say, please give us a thumbs up on your way out the door if you would. It does help us. And leave any comments below. And of course, if you're on the old socials, Crafty Monkeys and Gary Mills Designs, we would love you to tag us in and show us your hearts that you have made. We always share them. We always appreciate them. And as we said at the beginning of the film, you know, if today is a lazy day for you, you were going to do all these things, you've not got them done, and instead you just do some doodling, that's brilliant. Just do it, because tomorrow is another day, and you can always do whatever you're going to do tomorrow. So yes, take it on yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Love yourself. Send yourself. Send this to yourself and love yourself.
Yes.
There you
With that, we shall bid you adieu until we see you the next time for another time tutorial. Bye-bye.
Bye.